PITRU PAKSHA, September 17, 2024 to October 2nd. So this comes around every year around this time. From the harvest full moon, the waning cycle, till Mahalaya Amavasya, that fortnight, the new moon. To kind of set the context always. That which we are already, consciousness playing here at the level of states, right? That nature is timeless, spaceless. It's light, even at the level of one mind. Does not come or go, right? It is. That's the light that lights our world. And at the level of the relative play to which our senses are experiencing, the day, the night, the body, the shifts, the nature that is experienced, the level of Mother Earth, we see on this play. Need to be able to hold both. So whenever we are exploring, so in this context, we are exploring at the level of the annual cycle. As consciousness, the way the nature is, when we purely stand as consciousness, and that means timeless state, the beginning and the ending is right here. Yeah? But when we speak of this in terms of linear play, so now we are exploring at the level of the annual cycle, right? Looking at the seasons, that's going to come into picture. As well, if we explore it at the level of the moon, that's what we've been doing for the Dakshinayana series. Then we're looking at the phases of the moon, which is fortnight then, the waxing and the waning phase. Yeah, so that's coming into picture here. So that's the context within which we're speaking, which is very applicable and a beautiful way to sense and explore, by sensing through the body. This is a very, very embodied way of sensing. Whether we explore it at the level of astrology, the way the planets are moving, the nature and the seasons are coming even closer and sensing into the way energy is moving through the body. It's cycles within cycles within cycles. Right? So every moment where we are standing, we can kind of sense. Yeah. So annually speaking, PITRU PAKSHA comes around this time. And as we know, with autumn, the seasonal change. So we also have we have 4 Navratris, right? It's the 9 nights of the divine feminine. When I mean feminine, again, is simply subtle sensing, right? Manifest form, this experience, we as consciousness manifesting, is a dance, a unique ratio of feminine and masculine. The feminine, wherever we stand, right? There's a middle point, to give a visual. And from there, that allows us, how subtly we are able to sense and what is very obvious in the gross sensing for us. The subtle is the feminine. Yeah. The more we are in touch with our feminine self, the subtler we can see even beyond what is the obvious. And the masculine is what appears obvious to us. I kind of want to name this because this came up in one of the conversations, that when we speak at the level of the body, which I'm generalizing, kind of common thing, we experience our world at the level of the 5 senses, gross sensory, then only the 5 senses are sensed. And that is why the feminine sensing at the level of the inner body, the subtle sensing, intuition, what we call as, we're not very familiar with that because we've only been using the intellectual mind. That is the natural play that we came to play as the 3rd density. That's where we are vibrating. Yeah. And now we are in the 4D, 5D, you can say, which is subtle sensing, including the paradigm shift, where we experience beyond the tangible. I am awareness, which has no tangibility at the level of the body, right? And that is primary. Yeah, so context is everything. And then we see the play of time, space, body happening is what one may see within us. So, now staying with the PITRU PAKSHA thing, what's coming up. So that's why at the annual level, really see at this time, that's why the Navratri, we have 4 Navratris in a year, but the 9 nights of the Divine Feminine that is celebrated, because these are shifts, when it has to do with seasons, when shifts happen. This one, the autumn Sharat Navratri, is big. And if you have to start with any Navratri, that's why it's the most popular as well. Okay? Because that's when the biggest shift is made and can be made. Yeah, so it was really this thing at the fall, right? We know that even at the level of the seasons, all the other seasons can be kind of subtler if you sense into it. But the fall, right, is like with the leaves falling and like the trees stand bare, right? I mean, we look at some of the trees and in winter, we can literally say it looks like it has no life, it's dead. And then in spring again, it's bountiful, full of leaves. So that there's a stark difference that happens during this time, this fall and winter time. So if you want to know more, then just follow the Dakshinayana series that has been playing up. If this is one of your first videos, it'll really help clarify. And now that we are coming into this PITRU PAKSHA time, this fortnight, is really, what is the theme for Dakshinayana that we've been doing? The feminine. Is the invitation to deeply sense, to go within. Because the consciousness, our true nature, is subtle, one way to put it. It has no nature, right? As pure consciousness, no nature. So at the level of mind, it is very subtle, that which we are truly. Truer truths. Everything is subjective truth, but everything is at a subtler level. So when we kind of are called to go within, this is the time from solstice, we start going within. The Dakshinayana phase, right? And then that subtle sensing. And the theme of that is the more and more we sense, right? The more and more we are able to perceive. And the deeper sensing comes, it's like the shining of the light. And that's the paradox. The deeper we go into the darkness, which the gross level labels as darkness within ourselves, the unknown, right? The more the knowing, the inner light, the sensing. And that allows us to see what in any given moment is serving for us or not. So PITRU PAKSHA is kind of like the time of the peaking of that we've been doing with these moon phases. Right? So we've been going within and sensing into it. So PITRU, come to that, the name itself. Again, this is direct sensing in the way that it comes through the body. Pa, right? Every time the lips meet, and even at the level of the lips meeting, I want to name something because I've been sharing this in the past videos. It's not just even the lips meeting. You can even, when you really become still and the words come through, I am divine word, we really sense it's when the tip of the lips are meeting or the inner lips are meeting, the way the tongue moves, where the tip of the tongue versus the back of the tongue, from where the voice is the flow of the divine word as voice is coming through from the throat to the belly. Everything can be sensed. This itself is a complete whole field of exploration. That's how I sense it. The power of sound. The way that we hear sound, how it's processed at the sensing level, frequencies as we know, and even the power of where words come from and why it was said that divine word. Right? So everything has that. So Pa, again at one level, Pa, PITRU. Say Pa, the top lip and the bottom lip signifies the heaven and earth. It is simply stating that I am the divine manifest. Consciousness manifests the nature of mind. Say Pa. There is a nature to it. That's why it's a masculine nature. Paternal. Pitra. So speaking about that, E always has to do with the feminine sound. Ta. Ta. Always the tip of the tongue touching the upper palate here is existing. Tathastu. Stapita. These are all Sanskrit words. Sa is the mind and ta when we say existence, coming into existence. So pitra, ra, as we know, is when the tongue vibrates the upper palate. It speaks about that active principle of living life, ra, which perpetuates itself. So these words, the etymology of the words, especially when it's directly sensed, right? I kind of also name this, if you're looking at this. This is not done at the level of our third density way of learning. Yeah. So if you're a scholar and you're learning this via the books, you'll find a lot of parallels naturally because all is consciousness. But the way of this exploration that's being shared here is from direct experience, right? So it's sensing into it through the body itself. This is very unique because it's direct. It's not taking it from outside. It's kind of sensing it from within. And of course, then we can draw parallels and sense even more the way that it was shared in written Vedas or in the written scriptures, wherever you might come from, whichever part of the world. We'll draw parallels. So it's beautiful to see that. But where we are standing is as Shruti, as consciousness, and sensing from there. And this is so beautiful, I tell you, because it really allows us, which is the age of Aquarius, to develop deep trust in the knowing that which we are as mind. It comes from within. So we take off the crutch, right? One way to put it, from needing to know or wanting proof from outside. That is what this journey is. Yeah? This was the journey of how the Vedas came through from the rishis. Beyond gender, when we say that. Yeah, so coming back to that. So PITRU PAKSHA. And I've shared a little bit about in one of my videos as well about the divine bird in that. About the PAKSHA, right? Pakshi is one of the word, the bird. So it's like when we are playing at the level of duality, you can see ourselves playing at the level of form as a bird with the two wings. So waxing and waning cycle of the moon always has the up and the down, the light and the dark, right? Within which the play happens. And so it's like climbing up the steps. It's almost like that. Yeah. Expansion, evolution, deeper sensing. So every paksha, that's why, has an energy. What I mean by that is the waxing or the waning cycle of the moon. The waxing cycle of the moon is beautiful when we really come into a deeper knowing. It shines the light. We can bring it forth. The waning cycle points more to the inner. It allows for that. So when we are playing, exploring this at the level of the moon cycle, at that level, we can harness that energy. As the moon is waning now, to go deep within. Stay within. Sense that simmering within. You can journal, you can look at that, what is within. It allows for that. So that's why this PITRU PAKSHA, about 16 days that we really sense into this energy, allows for us to see what Pitra means itself. Even Pitri, it's called. When we are identified at the level of the body, which is the most common, familiar, we look at Pitra or Pitri to be our ancestral lineage, right? It is ancestry itself. But our ancestry that we identify with has to then to do with our family, right? With our father, mother, with especially our patriarchal lineage. We can even look at it at the level of our, even the land that which we are born in can be seen as that ancestry, right? These are all deeper levels. Even deeper, if you go beyond that, then we can see it literally as the ancestry lineage of the manifest form as human evolution. That's the next level. That's the collective level. Deeper again. Even more deeper is the waking up is of our celestial lineage. So it's that can be sensed. So wherever we are, and these all, mind you, can really be held simultaneously. I want to name that. Because energy cycles within cycles. We are in consciousness, depending on our awareness where we are in different phases, right? So there's tamas, there's rajas, there's sattva. All these are simultaneous. And the more and more steady sensing that we can do, we can sense that. If we have to look at it this way, we can say the more denser tamasic, then we'll sense more the conditions that are there of our ancestral lineage. The ideas, all of that will be sensed only at the level of the body, our thinking mind, a me, versus then I can start sensing how this is coming from the family lineage, the environment, right? That even more deeper sensing at the tamas level can be even at the level of the collective, at the cultural, right? As a culture, what we hold, which country we come from, it has an identity to it, right? It has narratives to it. It has conditions to it. All of that. Then even more, like I said, as the human, as a collective, we are moving as this identity, right? There are some commonalities in that idea. Even more beyond that, as the celestial, this thing within which this human experience is happening. So it becomes this PITRU PAKSHA, wherever you find yourself, can be that sense into that. And again, I want to name this because this comes up often. We are consciousness. This is simply at the play of the relative. Wherever we are, pure perfection. Don't add any more meaning to it than that. So that's why the primary thing is to stay aware. So what is perceived in and as that awareness, whatever is experienced at the level of this appearing happening, is held in the most steadiest light. That is most important. PITRU PAKSHA. Okay, so that is what peaking is happening right now. It's the churn. Sharing about that in Samudra Manthan. I'm going deeper into that in the coming video that I'll put up soon. Right? What's happening in this time frame? Why it's so important? So that churn is happening. So observe. So what was coming up for PITRU PAKSHA? I really wanted to share. When awareness as consciousness, we are playing at a denser level, right? Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, we can say like that. First, of course, when this churn comes up, our meaning making of what this churn comes up in the body, the story is always seen from the limited consciousness as a me, as a person. This is happening to me, right? The churn is happening. As we stand, just as the aware self, that awareness, one way of putting it, it doesn't change, but the experience of that is become more and more aware. Then you start really seeing, and what you're seeing is what you're being. You change. You start seeing that what is happening is not just happening at the personal level. Everything are simply conditions, ideas. So as you observe what is being defined as a person, and you see that the person itself is simply an idea that is taken on by the colors or the waters that are held in the environment, whether it's the family or the culture. Now you're standing at a more higher thing. So now the churn, I'm not going to name that because this came up really, because it's all a response, right? So for the question, it said like, the question came up saying, Supriya, this thing that is coming up, gosh, I feel like it's forever. When will I ever get out of this personal, that this story that comes up as an energy? Also be very aware that sometimes it's not even personal, because at one level, nothing is. Consciousness is simply playing as these stories, but it's untouched by it. Okay, but these are simply words, right? When we're in it, what does that matter? So at that point, I want to share that you really start sensing that it is what is personal, that's why is the universal. Yeah. So this is so just the invitation here is to just be aware. Yeah. Even the personal meaning making that is happening, be aware of the mind. What is the nature and the identity of the mind that is making that meaning? So then, I want to name that especially for the ones from which this is. The nature of consciousness is at the level of energy is pure sensing. When we hear the words of non-duality and we see like we become this non-dual self, nothing touches me. That is one part of it. The truth of it at the energetic level is you become deeply sensitive. Your body becomes like a sensing tool. So, but when we are not aware of it, still we are in the process. This sensing, that is what we as empaths feel. Right? The more fluid we become, we are sensitive. The world feels too much for us. Right? But the I that is standing and making the meaning is still identified as a person. So that is why it feels overwhelming. This sensitivity is pure sheer power. It's actually a high vibration. The ability to sense so deeply. It allows us to deeply go into the core. Generally, we look at this core to be diving deep down. It's not down. It is an expansive, higher sensing. To remember that. This sensitivity is a power. But only when our identity is at the level of the person can feel overwhelming. Very natural. Very natural. That's the process that we are waking through, and we are waking through from Dwapar Yuga into the Treta Yuga. Because the Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga is still identified as the person. So to keep this in mind, so it seems overwhelming. To also remember that that's why these things that are happening are not just personal. This consciousness, that's like a whirlpool, right? That's why keep the heart open is very important. Some of these practices, that's why it can be so important, because it's a powerful alchemizing and transmutative place. We transmute energy. So beyond the personal, when we are so sensitive, we are, wherever we go, we don't even need to go eventually, right? It's beyond the body. As we expand, we are transmuting collective energies, alchemizing that, right? That level of PITRU, right? Our lineage then is at the level of humanity. We stand not just, everything is inclusive, right? So we not just stand for the personal sovereignty, one way to put it, right? Growing from that, the sovereignty of the culture, the land, the traditions of that is one level. Then as the collective, then at the level of humanity, that is this human experience at the level of Mother Earth. And then even beyond that, as consciousness, as what we say, then it starts becoming one, the one that we stand as becomes the celestial. That is what we say as a star seed. That seed is not the personal self. That seed is the seed of the celestial. That is the womb from which Mother Earth and this experience is born. So depending on where we are transmuting that. So to keep that in mind, that everything that comes up is not necessarily the me, that I'm the little me trying to do that. Yeah, this was coming up so strongly at this time. That is why everything, go to the root, direct experience. Who is the I? That will determine experience. Self and the experience, reality is simply experience. That is why not everybody is experiencing the same reality or living in the same world as we see. Right? So, how is that processing? Will be determined naturally. It's phenomena. It's phenomena. Depends on the I. As long as we stand in the little I, we're so sensitive, but the I is still this, and we're trying to process this whole thing through this little. Naturally, you find these powerful hearts who are these empaths who've come in. And by the way, we have chosen this because consciousness is conscious. It consciously chooses to forget, to play this game of unconsciousness, so that it can experience itself as the story. Yeah, so everything that is happening is perfect. Nothing is going wrong. So, when we're still identified as a little thing, the light that we're bringing through our hearts is so strong, so sensitive. But the clash of it is because the identity is that little, that little body kind of. So the meaning making comes from that. Realize that you, whatever that you are, is this unnameable. You're a powerful alchemist. You're bringing forth those energies, alchemizing. Right? So, stand in that. Remember that. Even when it comes to the body. That this is where we use for the personal body courage, compassion, ease. Because we feel so sensitive, like healers and all of that, right? Ease, that's why. Allow for ease. Don't feel pushed to the need to do anything. We carry those narratives from the world. So if we are called to do something, we're called. Your consciousness, simply your presence. I always say, don't do it. Just the breath that you take is enough. Simply you being, appearing itself is such power. Know the grace of that which you are. Yeah. Know the grace of that which you are. That allows us to move through this consciously with a sense of steady, that innate sense of joy. Yeah. That's the invitation of this time. Remember who you are. Realize who you are. Because you already are. You already are. You know it. You wouldn't even find yourself here otherwise. So that was coming up a lot, right, with the theme. I just want to kind of name this with the questions. If you're called in any of these videos, because we're sharing it impromptu like this, come up for you, you have deeper questions, send me an email. I'll put an email down. I'm also creating a Google form suggested by a dear one that I do that, because I sense the theme. Then it's always in the field, right? We are the field. So we only find ourselves here because we are all simmering there together. So it comes up. So you're also welcome to send, if you don't want to send me from an email, in the form, and I'll sense whatever the most theme is, there's a resonance to that, and kind of that comes up always as a response to be addressed. Yeah. So we all know this already. We're there together. So this was coming up for the PITRU PAKSHA. So PITRU PAKSHA, to go back traditionally, the way that it is done in India, was this time. The way that the narrative is, of course, written is very much for those times, right? We might find it like that. So PITRU PAKSHA was the time when there were rituals. Again, it's done by a body of water. In the ancient days, it was done literally on a body of water, in water itself. Yeah, that was the vision that came through. That was literally done by dipping yourself in running water. That's why for us, Ganga and water bodies were seen to be that fluid state, because it wasn't seen as a form. There is no form. During the time that Rig Veda and all was written, if you really see, like Saraswati, the river, is not ever mentioned as a river in the beginning. It's mentioned as a state of consciousness, goddess, feminine nature, because that which flows naturally, the nature of flow itself means age of, Aquarius. It's like the water-like quality, air-like quality, that which moves easily, it senses easily, changes easily, shape-shifting. That's our true nature. Yeah. So it was done at that point in the ancient days. But later, of course, when the Dwapar Yuga came, Kali Yuga came, consciousness at that level is playing in a state of consciousness that is identified only at the level of form, only at the level of five senses, and only understands naturally awareness as consciousness. We understand only at that level. So that's why every teaching is perfect match for that state of consciousness. Life meets us perfectly where we are. So whatever teachings resonate to us is perfect for us right there. So then for PITRU PAKSHA at that time, of course, then rituals are needed. All of that is needed because we are at the level of the denser level. And the denser level, as we know, we need to do. Through doing, we become more aware. Yeah, because the sense of being state, we don't understand that. We don't understand that because it's denser. So rituals are done, mantra chanting are done, so that energetically that's sensed. And of course, mantra, as we know, right? So we're all doing it at the gross level. What is mantra chanting? Where the tip of the tongue touches. And the more you do that, that awakens our nervous system itself, right? It's there. That nervous system awakens, there's more deeper sensing. And we kind of many times look at that we think that it's the mantra chanting, which is true at the level that woke me up. So we think we need to do practices. I want to name this for whoever can kind of sense that I do the practice and that is what woke me up. I'm already consciousness who is awake. Right? Only at the relative level I was playing at a denser level. And as the practice, whichever practice resonates is done, I wake up to that which I already am. That is the paradigm shift. So that is why stepping into any practice, any exploration, the key is to step into it not in order to do, to become, but in order to enter as that which I already am. Then whatever we do, whichever ritual we pick, whichever mantra chanting or not, wherever we find ourselves, that's when life starts becoming a practice itself. Because being aware, we sense what we are called into is needed at that time, aware. I'm covering a few different contexts. Every state of consciousness is a context. This is Treta Yuga. Just being itself, awareness itself. Third eye open, we sense. Just the seeing of something opens it up for us. right? And we're already this because consciousness has densified it. It's already that. This is simply the relative plane. So how am I already that, right? The question again, who am I conscious of being? What identity am I entering into? Everything determines that. The beginning is the end. How I do one thing is how I do everything. What is that one thing? Our identity. The state of consciousness with which I enter into anything is going to determine what I'm going to sense. Right? And I shared this for me personally, the way that when I was exploring this came through, right? Which we'll really see is when we read a book. When we read a certain book, right, and we kind of get some insights and we're like, oh, right? You go back later, a couple of months later or a few years later to that book and you'll be like, oh my God, how come I missed this para? Or how is it that I didn't even understand the deeper meaning, even see it? We won't even see it, right? And the next time we go back, we're like, how did I miss this? It's so obviously written. What life meets, right? What we meet is determined by our state of consciousness. And that is why the ultimate practice is the non-practice. Be aware. Just be aware. Just be. And where is consciousness? Always present, here, now. Always naming this because we speak about all of this in different contexts. We're going in places. Everything here. Be present and you'll sense it. Awareness, our level of awareness determines how we're going to explore, how we're going to see. Eventually, it shifts where we really see we are. There's no I exploring. The exploration is happening. Right? So, anyway. So, PITRU PAKSHA. Okay, so this was really coming up. That's why it's the peaking. So, we do that so that we can awaken. The key thing about PITRU PAKSHA, I'm going to end this video with this really. I'm seeing a hummingbird with its beak so beautifully drinking nectar. It's symbolic. The divine bird, the hummingbird, has a quality. It can go deep, deep. Everything is a portal. And see the sweetness and the essence, the beauty. Taste it. We reach a hummingbird. See the beauty of our exploration. So PITRU PAKSHA also allows for that time. PITRU PAKSHA is most of all an opportunity to see the conditions that have been lived. This body, the body that we think is the I, belongs to Mother Earth's play. It's born in its mother's womb. There is a lineage. Like we say, we stand on our ancestors' shoulders, the shoulders of our elders, the wisdom that is coming from them. And, right, it's two sides of the same coin. And also the struggles that they went through, right? And those limited conditions and those energetic patterns as well. Those meaning making and those ideas that are limitations as well. It's both. So PITRU PAKSHA is a time to honor that, acknowledge that, bring everything into neutrality. That happens when we stand as consciousness. When we stand as consciousness, we are able to see with clarity in every given moment that which is serving. Thank you. We take that forward. That's the honoring. Whichever level of ancestry that you're looking at, what are you called to take forward? Yeah. You get in touch with your multidimensional soul self, celestial self. Then you're taking that is coming through and sharing it. Yeah. And then what is not there anymore, you bring that to peace. You see the perfection of how that was needed for the story to build itself. Simply a story in that sense, but allowed consciousness to live as that story. Right? So honoring that, bringing it to peace, bringing it to neutrality, then allows us to move forward. At the level of the person, we will say that allows us to linearly move forward. The paradigm shift is stepping out of the whole lineage line itself. Yeah, absolutely stepping out of that is the paradigm shift. Consciousness doesn't play at the level of linearity. This is what we call as the quantum leap. This is where we are able to then hold this play of linear play that happens at the level of the person, or name that, right? The linear play is happening at a couple levels, which is one at the level of the person, I, the story of me, right? At the level of the body. There's also at the collective level, that's also a linear play, right? At the level of the culture that I come from, land that I come from, it has a story, traditions that it's carrying, honoring that, stepping out of that. Also at the level of the human play, this is the Satyuga paradigm, really standing as the unnameable oneself, quantum leap, become presence. This is the opportunity for that. True transcendence includes, when I want to name that, it's not excluding it. Yeah, the mother, divine, feminine, subtle sensing, immanence. Immanence allows for true transcendence. So PITRU PAKSHA allows for that. Until we do not own, honor that which appears to have been and seen, we cannot rise above it. And I'm speaking in a certain context here. That's the invitation. So at this time, to see those parts that are coming up, to be seen, to be honored, to be perhaps even be voiced. Yeah? At the level, whether it's at the level of the body, person, tradition, culture, earth, that doesn't work. That has served. Now it's a new. Allow for that. The 16-day energy till this waning phase. If we dissolve, right? It's like the waning is going within. Allow every moment to be in that state will bring forth a lot. Eternally remembering that we are the unnameable, powerful, our energy. We are the alchemists. PITRU PAKSHA. And of course, as we know, end of the week, that's why Equinox. Equinox is the time. That's why we come into that. At the level of duality, right? We're speaking at that level of duality. Equal night and day. So to do the PITRU PAKSHA, it brings us, nature is moving that into that balance point. And all this, for the Dwapar Yuga state of mind, of course, is a doer that always comes to, what do I do? Simply be, observe the doing that arises. Simply observe. Observe the impulse from which the doing arises. Observe the I, yeah, which is observing, meaning making, all of that. Stay in that space. That means pretty much be present. Be as presence. Be in the body. This is nature. It's all already happening. Yeah? It's only one divine being consciousness. Leaving it at that. To living and celebrating an awakened body, mind, world. Much love. Much love.